Welcome to AICGS. Today we welcome Andreas Schockenhoff in our office. He is a leading member of the Christian Democrats in Germany, a member of the Bundestag, just re-elected, and one of the leading foreign policy experts of his party. And he's now in Washington having a round of talks with various US officials. What's the main message that you're taking back to Berlin?
I mean, the general theme in the domain of foreign affairs and security policy is continuity. That means there is a big consensus between the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats to remain engaged in transformation partnerships in Egypt, in Tunisia, our engagement in the neighborhood policy of the European Union, Eastern Partnership, and I think we have a preamble in that part of the coalition treaty that we are committed to our, let's say, responsibility to contribute to the solution of global crises and problems. We know that our foreign activity is not, let's say, at the leverage of our economic and political ambitions, and here we have a clear commitment.
Mm-hmm. But where there is a confluence of political and economic heft is the case of the Ukraine, just recently making headlines, situation there very shaky. And we would like to know from you what the German position is towards the Ukraine, whether you see some differences in approach between the US and Europe and Germany in particular. The US is now proposing possible sanctions against Ukraine. Do you think those could be counterproductive? What is the right approach?
I mean, the question is which is the right approach to Russia and to our Eastern partners. As far as Russia is concerned, we want a strong, democratically shaped, competitive Russia as our neighbor. So the policy is a policy of the outstretched hand, but focusing on the deficits of democratization, of rule of law, fight against corruption, and so on. We do not want a Russia first policy. We have written into that coalition treaty that the German-Russian policy has to be in coherence with a European, an EU-Russia policy. So before we deal with Russia, we have to find a common European approach. And this is a second very important sentence. Our Russian policy has to take into account the interests of our neighbor. And that brings me to Ukraine. Ukraine is a sovereign state. The offer of a partnership agreement is on the table. And
between the European Union and Ukraine?
In the framework of the Eastern Partnership, which is addressed to 6 countries, to Ukraine, Belarus, which is very difficult at the time being, but also Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Moldova. And in the last minute, Yanukovych decided not to sign it. He was under pressure of Putin. And this is non-acceptable in interference. Ukraine is a sovereign state, and it is a deeply divided country, but the majority of the population prefers a European orientation, and they are demonstrating for that in the street, and we have to respond to that will to integrate to the Western value community. It is not only about assistance and about financial support. It is really about the transition of the country, about rule of law, about civil society encouragement. And here I think we as Germans we have a responsibility to respond to the people in the Maidan Square, because in our recent history, the peaceful revolution is I mean, a very, very lucky phase of our experience. So we cannot leave these people alone, and we have to offer them a clear European perspective. I mean, EU membership for the Ukraine is not actually on the agenda, but Eastern Partnership is not, let's say, a substitute for that. It doesn't exclude a later, let's say, process of rapprochement, and the perspective has to be clear for Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. But this Western Europe orientation that the Ukraine has and is trying to demonstrate for in the squares of Kiev is clearly antagonizing Russia, or at least the Russia of Vladimir Putin. How do you square this circle? How can you try to open towards Russia while at the same time open towards countries that are that have national sovereignty, as you rightly pointed out,
yeah,
and are clearly trying to move away from a tight control of Moscow?
We have to make clear and explain to Russia that a European perspective for Ukraine is not designed against Russian interests. Putin is in a very Cold War fashioned zero-sum game mentality.
And he has always been.
He has always been. So
why should that change?
Why should he change? This is not up to us to answer that question, but we cannot accept, let's say, the future orientation of Ukraine being influenced by any kind, let's say, of Russian dominance. We do not accept, let's say, approaches like near neighborhood policy, privileged zones of influence, and so on. No, the ratio of European integration is that closer cooperation is a win-win game for all of us. And the proposal to create a free trade area from Vladivostok to Lisbon comes from Putin himself. So integration in the middle of Europe cannot be, oriented against Russia, and the EU perspective or the European integration of Ukraine does not hinder a closer cooperation with Russia. So we have to invite Russia to cooperate closer in our common neighborhood, but we cannot accept, let's say, a Russian domination in the post-Soviet area.
Mr. Schockenhoff, if we look at what's happening in the Ukraine and the fact that the Ukrainians, at least a lot of them, are demonstrating for Europe, basically, and Europe has been mired in a crisis for many years now, in a debt crisis, but also confidence crisis. And we have seen resurgence of anti-Euro or anti-European parties, of populism. We have one of the probably most important European elections coming up in the year 2014 in May, which could witness, or where we could witness a strong showing for anti-Euro and anti-Europe parties. What does the Ukraine example tell us as Europeans about our own continent, about our own institutions, and what we have achieved in the past decades?
I think it shows us that the model of social market economy, of democracy, of rule of law is still very attractive. Europe is more than, let's say, a market. Europe is more than an assistant program. Europe is part of the Western value community, and the European orientation of Ukraine means for those people the transformation of their own society, and the transformation not only, let's say, in a purely economic understanding, but transformation implies civil society engagement, implies competition of ideas, implies freedom of of media, of press, means fight against corruption. I think the comprehensive transformation of the society is linked to what we call the European or the Western model, and it is much more than the instruments or the institutions of the EU. It is a kind of it remains a kind of system competition between freedom and authoritarian vertical exercise of power.
Do you think that message is also going to be part of the campaign for Europe in May 2014, within the boundaries of the current 28-member European Union?
But I mean the main message for the European campaign is that the responsibility of our political generation is the self-assertion of Europe in the global order of the 21st century.
Do you think that message has been lost in the past few years?
We have been megling through all kinds of crisis management, and that principal message has not enough been presented. Perhaps it is evident, but I mean, we have to repeat that Europe is 500 million people. That means 7% of the global population. Europe is 25% of global GDP and 52% of global social spending. So our wealth, our welfare state, our social market economy, our way of life, is not evident, is not self-sufficient.
Europeans tend to take it for granted, and when it goes away, as it has for a lot of Europeans now, they start to have doubts about that model.
We have seen that it is not granted, but we also see that we have all the means to defend it. I mean, in the fiscal and financial crisis, Ireland and Spain, who were under the umbrella of the fiscal treaty of the rescue system, they left it, and they are again at the markets, and they have let's say reliability and on the markets. I think Portugal will be able to leave the program next year. So Europe is able to overcome that. It is the confidence crisis. In fact, is a crisis of political and economic performance, which finds its expression in the fiscal crisis. So our approach, and this is also an element of the new coalition treaty, is a double approach. Yes, to fiscal consolidation, and Germany shows solidarity with states in southern Europe to help them. But it has to be combined with real structural reforms to enhance competitiveness. The question is not only the gap or the disparity of competitiveness inside the European Union. The real threat is our place in the global trade and our competitiveness compared to emerging zones of global economy. And I think if we show very concrete examples, it is very easy to convince our constituents that we need more Europe and not less Europe to preserve our wealth.
Let's open a different chapter, one that regards in particular the relationship between Germany and the US at the moment, which has generated lots of negative headlines, especially across the Atlantic in Germany, in your home country, and that's the so-called NSA spying scandal. Now, there has been the perception that on the German side, many have regarded the reaction and the reassurances of the US administration as falling well short of what is actually needed. Some have said it would have helped if the US President Barack Obama had issued an open apology to Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, for what happened. What is your view, and what kind of new intel did you gain while here in Washington?
I mean, it is true. A lot of trust and confidence have been, frustrated, and but I do not see the scandal as a US-German scandal. First of all, here on this side of the Atlantic, it is an American scandal. And the debate which is taking place now here in the States should include the allies of the United States. That means the right balance between security and freedom is not only applies not only to to the relationship between the services and U.S. citizens, but to all the people which are living in our value community.
Some German observers have said this time, this scandal or this rift will have a lasting impact on the bilateral relationship between the US and Germany. Do you think that's the case? Some have compared it to 2003 and the rift about the Iraq War.
I do not. I do not think. But first of all, I do not hope because I think that we will overcome. That scandal very quickly, and the strong ties, the mutual the dependency, and our shared commitment all over the world is across the Atlantic is much stronger. We have decided to start negotiating the TTP, which is a huge opportunity for trade, for economic improvement, growth, both in the States and in the European Union. And of course, things happen, and errors happen, but then you have not to stay where we are with that.
Try to address them.
We have to draft them, and yesterday there was started an initiative of big U.S. internet companies who, of course, are concerned about their reliability and
the impact on their business model.
And the impact on their business model. And if you look at their engagement in Europe, in Germany, which is huge and which is an enormous part of transatlantic trade cooperation. So the interest to overcome that issue very quickly is obvious. And I mean, of course, scandals happen. And errors are committed, but to really to link that to a long-lasting and very strong mutual partnership and friendship is really I think not the right reaction.
Schockenhoff, if finally we look at 2014, we have had a year, especially on the German side, that was clearly in big part consumed by the fact that the election took place. Now it's clear what the composition of the new government will be, barring some last-minute surprises. What should the agenda 2014 be for Germany and for Europe?
The agenda is closer political integration. We have a single market, we have a single currency, but we do not have a real political integration in Europe, and this is one of the reasons why we run into these problems. So political integration is based on two pillars. The first one is, of course, fiscal consolidation and structural reforms, more coherence in our economic policies. And the second pillar...
But that's what you call a national homework, because that's what the member countries should do primarily.
Well, a national homework, but I mean the framework is European. If you agree upon European banking supervision, if you agree upon debt break, if you agree upon regulations for budget and fiscal discipline, I mean, these are European standards which have not existed before. So this is the fiscal part of the program. The other pillar is closer cooperation in the domain of foreign affairs, security policy. I mean, we are all suffering from budget restrictions, especially in the defense budgets. So if we want to have a better performance in our neighborhood, and this in the interest also of our transatlantic allies, we have to make better use of limited, let's say, budget funds. So that means closer cooperation, mutualization of military asset structures, units, and this presumes that we share a political will, where we will engage, how we will engage, and I think this is another big challenge for European integration. Self-assertion of Europe in the global order of the 21st century, an engaged and committed Europe. I mean, that is the big title, and there is a lot of chapters under this title.
And what will be Mr. Schockenhoff's role in all of this in 2014?
I hope to continue to be engaged in international affairs in the Christian Democratic Caucus of the Bundestag, and I think we have a new generation because the Liberals have not been re-elected. We have a big fluctuation in the Bundestag we have new members, and I think we should take that opportunity to give a new drive also for transatlantic initiative. Some of not of these scandals who happened in the last months, but the way we dealt with them show that we always are demanded to reassure that strong transatlantic tie, and I hope the EIGCS will contribute as well.
Thank you, Mr. Schockenhoff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.